Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this edition of What Matters. This month, I'm continuing the conversation with men for the Men's Matters series, and the voices of men matter. Now, today, I have a wonderful man here with me, Jeff Martin. Now, Jeff does differentiate his name from, you said it was a rap artist?
No, there's actually a rock star out of Toronto named Jeff Martin, so I go by Jeff A.D. Martin, just to make sure there's no mistake there.
There's no mistaking him with the other rock star, right?
The other rock star, yes.
So Jeff is a speaker. He is an author, very, very passionate about his community. I almost just spilled some beans. He's going to tell us about an amazing project that he has coming up with some men from the Six. Now, there was a previous project called Men of the Six or in the Six?
Brothers from the Six.
Brothers from the Six, which is actually the first time that I had ever heard of you or saw you on social media. So I think I was actually still in Montreal. But as I said, Jeff is an author. You've written a children's book called?
I have. Brothers from the Six, Sisters from the Six, Role Models in My Community. It is a double book, so each side, one side is the Brothers from the Six, and the other side is the Sisters from the Six.
Amazing. And so, Jeff, tell me a bit about yourself. Tell the audience a bit about yourself. Now, as I said, what I noticed about you and how I saw you show up in social media is somebody who was very engaged with his community and looking to bring it together.
Absolutely.
To unify it and present a united front. So tell me a bit about yourself. What inspired you to do the things that you're doing now? And then drop a little bit about your projects, and then we'll wrap it up at the end with what's coming up.
Absolutely. So as Erica, as you just said, I am an empowerment speaker. I am an author as well, as we just spoke about. I also host a podcast called Motivating from the Six. And really, I'm just someone who became sick and tired of seeing the situation that was happening around the community in terms of the poverty and the mindset and the gangs and the violence and the list can go on. And for me, I always was the type of person who wanted to serve. I wanted to help people. I want to see people become their best self. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to take a platform in terms of public speaking, empowerment speaking, and using the stories I've been through, using the stories of even celebrities and friends of mine, people in the community, of how they were able to overcome in a lot of different circumstances. And I use that to share, whether it be through empowerment speaking in schools, in community centers, in churches, whether it be through on my social media, through motivating or motivational posts, motivational videos, again, through my book, and then other books to come as well. Everything I do is all about trying to help the community become better.
Amazing. And so you are a native of Toronto, right?
I am, born and raised.
Born and raised.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't know all the areas as well as everyone else. So you had said you were from an area called Rexdale.
Yes, that's right.
And you had described it as tough.
Absolutely, yes. Growing up in Rexdale, there is so many people there that are loving, that are caring, just regular people who want to see the best for their families. But unfortunately, there's a lot of pockets with poverty. With poverty comes gangs and guns and violence sometimes. And, you know, as much as there's loving people, there's a lot of that negativity as well. And it's difficult to be in that space and not be impacted by that negativity. And so there's a lot of people there who, if they had just a little bit of help, not necessarily even monetarily, just had somebody who had the ability to support them, whether it be just giving them a pat on the back, just letting them know where resources are, they can strive and just do so much more than they're already doing. And that's one of the things I want to provide. And again, in all the things that I do, just being that person who can inspire them to do better.
Amazing. And, you know, it is very true that in a lot of the poorer neighborhoods, there is so much good.
Yes.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yes, as they say.
And we don't pay attention to the thousands of people in that community that get up every day and they go to work and they come home, and it's really quiet and boring. Mm-hmm. What you hear about, unfortunately, are the extremes of the violence and the disconnect. And as you said, if people got help, and it's not always monetary, it's the resources, knowing where the resources are. And I find that's one of the biggest problems in our poorer communities is that things are available. Here in Canada, we have tremendous resources. There are so many government programs, local programs.
Absolutely, yes.
And if you don't know the libraries offer a wealth of programs. often for free or for very little. And if you don't know about them, you simply can't use them. And so kids stay home alone, they're uninvolved, they're unattached, and it just adds to more problems. So it's wonderful to hear that somebody from here is so interested in what's going on here, because
Absolutely.
for our viewers that are not in Canada, I'm sure you know Toronto as this city that just produces these stars. We've had
Yes.
quite a few come out in the last few years,
Yes.
and there are a lot of great things to be proud of, but it is wonderful that you're using your voice to bring your community together.
I appreciate that.
Before we go forward, what was Brothers in the Six about?
So Brothers from the Six is a nonprofit organization that still runs to this day, and it's a great opportunity for us to get involved again with the community and just do so many different things. So one of the projects that we often do is just before school starts back up again, we get involved with other groups who are doing free backpacks and free haircuts for kids. So just to give the parents an opportunity, just so they don't have to spend that extra money there and they can use their resources elsewhere, and it gives those kids an opportunity to feel good going back to school. So that's one of the things that we've done. We've also gone out and did a hashtag 100 sandwiches where we've given out food to the needy as well. And again, just always trying to get involved with different projects that we can help people in their circumstances.
That is amazing. So following from that and all the wonderful things that you do, because it's not just words, right? He just doesn't get up on his social media and say a lot of great motivational things and
Right.
post good videos. It's about getting out there.
Action,
and
yes.
action, making things happen. And today, what we're going to talk about is one of the most important actions in the world, by far,
Yes.
which is being a father.
Woo!
And fathers do not just come from the biological
Right.
reproduction of children, because we know a lot of people who've reproduced and they're not fathers.
Yes.
And we know a lot of
Very
people
so.
who have never made their own children, but they have grown men and women
Yes. Very true.
well.
Yes.
So fatherhood is a very, very broad topic. It is not narrow, and it is so very important.
Absolutely it
And
is.
mentorship is part of being a father, but then you
Yes.
could also be a mentor without being a dad.
Right.
And a lot of mentors, which I'm sure you've seen firsthand yourself, a lot of mentors become like fathers to these children, and honestly sometimes even adults, young adults,
Yes.
right? We need that guidance.
Yes,
They
they definitely
definitely
do.
need that guidance.
Yes.
So the topic that Jeff is here for today, and I'll speak on it just a little bit, is, as I said, fatherhood and mentoring and the importance of it. Now, there is a flip side to that very present father, that very involved father, and it is the superhero syndrome. And we're also going to touch on ego and how that gets in the way. So, first of all, tell me, what is Superman syndrome?
So the Superman syndrome is basically the fact that we as men show our children the Superman side of us. So our children never see us fall. Our children never see us falter. They never see us make mistakes. Children automatically, when they see their father and mother, for all intents and purposes, they see the best in us. But I think it's so important that we show our children the Clark Kent as well. So we show our children when we fall. We show our children when we make mistakes. We show our children the side of us that's not necessarily perfect, because that shows them what a father is. It shows them what a human being is. We all can't be perfect. And oftentimes our children will see the role models on TV. They'll see the LeBron James. They'll see the actors, the singers, and they see the best of them. But we never see the other side when the cameras are turned off, when that person is upset, when that person is whatever it is. We need to allow our children to see that side of us, not just the Superman side, because that's what's going to show them the all aspects of who we are as human beings. They need to get both sides. It's so important for that.
So, oh, wait, we're going to have to break. Time goes so quickly when you're having fun. We will be right back after this break, and we're going to expand more on the superhero syndrome and how is it beneficial to let your child see you fail. We'll be back after these messages.
Hello, my name is Anisha, and I'm the production manager of TCN Network. Have you ever wanted to host your own show? Do you have a message to share? Well, you're in luck. We are looking for dynamic and unique individuals to host their own shows. We are seeking people who are committed, motivated, and energetic. Do you want to be the next Jimmy Fallon, Ellen DeGeneres, or Shane and Ryan from BuzzFeed Unsolved? Start here. fill out the Propose to Show form on mytcntv.com. We're here to educate, support, and build the community. Can you lead by example? Go the extra mile and seek knowledge? Are you humble, disciplined, responsible, selfless, and enthusiastic? Those are our core values. And if you identify with them, you could be part of a growing network that focuses on positivity and uplifting our community. We can't wait for you to join us on TCN Network and hope to hear from you soon.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back to this edition of What Matters, and I am here with the Jeff A.D. Martin, the other rock star. And today we are talking about fatherhood, mentorship, ego, and we're going to touch on a really interesting word in the male world, vulnerability.
Ooh.
Big stuff. So before the break, we were talking a little bit about the Superman syndrome and what that is. And basically it's showing just the Superman side of you, not the Clark Kent. Not when you have on the glasses, not when you're afraid. I always think of Clark Kent in the newsroom looking nervous with his glasses going, what blew up? Where do we have to go?
Exactly.
Little do they know he pulls off his suit and he makes things happen.
Yes.
And so a lot of people would say, well, why would you want your kids to have a front row seat to you failing? How possibly can that help you as a parent to highlight your failures or let your children know you've fallen short or let them know you're afraid or unsure? As the parent, you're supposed to be a leader, right? And you're supposed to take charge and show them that everything's okay and provide them that sense of security. So how, especially as a father, a present father, how would showing them your Clark Kent, you quaking in your glasses without your cape, how does that help them grow as people?
It gives them an opportunity to see who you are as a whole. So we often see people at their best, but as they say, you learn the most when you see how someone, after they fell down, how they got back up. Because you learn to dust yourself off. You learn to keep going in the process, whatever it is you're going through. And when your children have an opportunity to see that, they can now grow from that. So I got 3 young kings at home, 9 years old, 6 years old, and an 8-month-old. He's 9-month-old now. And my oldest one, who's 9, every once in a while I'll ask him, how is daddy doing as a father? And I think I do this because, the truth of the matter is I don't know what it's like to have a 9-year-old until he turns 9. I don't know what it's like to have a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old. He's 9 now. So every time he gets older, that's the first time I'm actually experiencing having a 10-year-old. Right. I've never had that experience before. So I'm not the expert at this. I don't have the solutions. There's no big book. We all know that of parenting. Every time he is going through something in life, it's the first time I'm experiencing it as a father. I may have experienced certain things as a young boy myself, but experiencing it as a father is a whole new area for me. So every once in a while, I'll ask him, how is daddy doing as a father?
That's
because
amazing.
If I'm not giving him the keys that he needs, then I'm letting him down. I'm not giving him the pieces he needs to become that man who he'll eventually become. My father was totally present in my life, and he still is. Still alive. My parents are together to this day. I love them to death. But my father was not the type of individual who spoke. And even to this day, he's very, I give him a call, Dad, what's going on? That conversation's 3 minutes long. He loves me the way he knows how to love me. But the truth of the matter is he's not one to show me his Clark Kent. And so that's something that I had to learn along my journey. And I would say, when I really look at my life, there's some portions of my life that I think held me back because I never learned the vulnerable side of him. I never got to see the vulnerable side of him, have those conversations about how he was let down in certain areas, how he, fell apart in certain areas. When you learn that from the person who's standing in front of you, you see, again, all sides. So now when I fall down, I know how to get back up. I know how to keep going because someone taught me that. That's my goal when it comes to teaching my children. And really, that's my goal when it comes to teaching anybody in the community who's looking to learn through mentorship.
I think that is an amazing question. And as you were saying that, I was thinking of going home and asking my 16-year-old that. So if he's out there watching, I'm actually afraid of the answer.
I was going to say, you got to be prepared.
You got to be prepared.
You got to be prepared for the answer, because it might not be something you want to hear.
Oh, he critiques me, constructive criticism on a regular basis. So I do get that feedback, but I think that's amazing. And especially coming from a community like ours, where the last generation was often, there was not a lot of long talk.
No.
It was very instructional.
Yes.
The conversations between us and our parents.
Yes.
Do this.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Right.
That was
the end of the conversation.
End.
Yes.
Feelings. We didn't really talk about feelings.
No, we
Yours
did not
didn't
talk about
matter.
Feelings. Right.
Too tough.
Right.
And we weren't sure that they had any based on the way
right. It's true.
that
Yes.
they treated us. So feelings were just not a conversation for a lot of us growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So to hear a man say, I look at my son and I say to him, how am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
With this is the number. Give me some feedback.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And I'm sure it's helped you reflect and grow as a father.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's my job to be the best father I can be. And being in a relationship is my job to try to be the best husband I can be. And of course, I fall down in those areas all the time. As we all do, we fall down in certain aspects of our life. But it's all about getting up and moving on and trying to become better. And when I ask my son that question, it's all about trying to become better, being the best father that I can be for him, to ensure that he has the tools that he needs as he gets older to become a man, to possibly become a husband, and to become a father himself. If I don't give him the tools, then he may never get those tools.
Yeah, and he will have to wing it.
Yes, a lot of people have been doing. And sometimes it works, but a lot of times it doesn't.
Oh, I've heard a lot of success stories of men that come from men that were not present or were not kind or positive.
Yes.
And because of that experience, really trying to do the opposite and doing their best to be their best. So let me ask you, Jeff, has he ever given you an answer that's really surprised you?
Not at this point.
No,
not at this point. I think because he's still young, and right now he's all into his superheroes and things along that nature. So nothing really huge has happened in his life yet. Maybe when he gets to the point where he starts really liking the young girls and wanting to drive. Who knows when that time is going to come? But so far the answers have been pretty cool that I've been able to do a quick adjustment and keep moving. Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Excellent. Awesome. So another thing that you brought up in your talking points is you were talking about ego.
Yes.
Now, when you say ego, I think a lot of us know the psychological terms. So, we have our ego, we have our id. But when you're talking about it in terms of fatherhood and mentorship and training the next generation to be the best they can be, what do you mean by ego?
I mean the individual who puts himself first. The individual who, some people say ego stands for edging God out, for looking at yourself and trying to attain things for you. And I think as a father or even as a mentor, that's the last thing. I think what we need to do is start stepping more into our vulnerability. That's where we're going to be able to learn. That's where we're going to be able to grow. Young men, when you have your heart broken, you're vulnerable. That's when it hurts. When you lose a job or you've been fired from a job, that's when it hurts. And from that hurt, you can actually learn and grow. And what you learn at that point in time is what you can use as lessons to help to teach others as they go along. We have a lot of young men who have had their heart broken, and now automatically they become players because the last thing they want to do is have their heart broken again. But if you're able to help a young man to help him understand, what, it's a part of life. It does hurt, but you know what? You're going to find love again, or you're going to find a better situation, whatever it is that person is going through. You're able to help them a little bit more as opposed to them trying to conquer that vulnerability by stepping more into their ego. If we step into our vulnerability, there's so much we can learn. Let me ask you this. What's your favorite movie? Or favorite artist?
Favorite artist?
I know, I just put you on the spot. J. Cole. All right. So J. Cole, for example, had at one point or another, or probably every day, had to step into his vulnerability. When he wrote his first song and he put it out and he's like, yeah, this thing looks fire, he had to show it to somebody and wait to get their opinion. When he got signed to whatever record label he signed to, he had to put his vulnerability, his self out, his skills out there to a bunch of people to judge him. He's standing in his vulnerability. And because he did that, he is the J. Cole that we all know today. Your favorite movie, same thing. The person who wrote the movie, the person who starred in the movie, there's 1,000 people who are attached to that movie who had to step into their vulnerability to let someone else judge them. And if we're able to do that, there's so much we can learn, whether it hurts or not at the end of the day. There's so much we can learn. There's so much we can grow within that circumstance if we step into our vulnerability. So I say, like, let's not move away from it. We often step away from it. Let's step into it, embrace it, learn from it, and see what we can create from it.
As men, though, isn't that what the very opposite of what you're taught?
Yeah. Society will show you a totally different aspect of what manhood should be, of what being a male should be. But what I'm saying is that, you know, society, especially when it comes to media and such, they're going to sell you whatever makes money in their own pocket. So what they're showing you is not necessarily correct. It's what puts money in their pocket. And so you have a lot of young men. Let's talk about music, for example. You have a lot of young men who are fairly young in the game. They give them $1 million and they say, go rap about this. And they do that, right? And so they're now standing in this Superman point, as I like to say, Superman phase, where they they got the S on their chest. They're talking about money. They're talking about girls. They're talking about playing. They're talking about this and that. Meanwhile, they don't even have what it takes within them. They haven't stepped in their own vulnerability yet. They're just in this whole Superman phase, and they're teaching other young men, oh yeah, this is the way you got to be. So now we're all in our ego. It's all about me, making money, playing, buying my cars, whatever. But we haven't developed the inside, the vulnerability side, to really put ourselves out there to say, okay, I've made a mistake. I've learned from it. Let me grow from it, or let me create from it. We haven't done that because society has put out this mask, so to speak, of what what masculinity should look like. Absolutely. If that makes sense.
It absolutely does. And I think Jeff and I could do a whole show talking
yeah,
about
absolutely.
rappers and our music and how that affects how our children behave and so forth. When we come back from this break, we're going to expand on the topic even more. Mm-hmm. And you're going to talk a bit about how our sons aren't trained to be fathers.
Right, yes.
Okay, so we will be right back after this break.
Awesome.
Welcome to Shadow Auto.
Welcome back to this edition of What Matters, and this month we celebrate the voices of men, and I have a wonderful voice here with me today, Jeff A.D. Martin, here from Toronto native, Brothers from the Six. There's another number coming up which we'll discuss in the next segment.
Yes.
Author, speaker, motivation. If you are looking to follow someone who has a strong, true voice and is not full of ego, check Jeff out. On all social medias, you will find him as Jeff A.D. Martin,
yes.
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I stalked him on LinkedIn today. I found him. So, you will find that voice everywhere. So during the break, we often have great conversations all by ourselves without you guys. And I was expanding because I am hip-hop. I'm a lover of hip-hop. I really believe this. And we were talking a little bit more about the example that you brought up of, rappers and the music that our kids listen to and what they rap about. And what I was saying to Jeff is that from what I've seen is that the male rappers that do speak about their vulnerability, that speak about the negative, when their heart was broken, when they had no money, when they weren't sure about what they were doing. One of my favorite songs from Cole is I Let Nas Down, where he talks about letting down one of his mentors and what that meant to him and how that made him feel.
Okay.
And what I've noticed is that the rappers with the longest careers, the ones that are considered GOATs, the ones that seem to connect with people over decades, speak on their vulnerability. And the ones that, they come, I got a car, I got a girl, I got a... They come and they go. They're here and they're gone.
Okay.
And I don't see them lasting. So maybe you guys see it too, but I see a definite connection with men, with other men that can skillfully and artistically, with some bravado,
Right, yes.
express their vulnerability. Right?
As you say that, I'm thinking about LL Cool J, I Need Love. And when
I
he
Need
came out
Love.
with that was the first slow jam hip hop song. And people were like, what are you doing? But that was one of his biggest selling songs, right?
Ever. Trust me. It
Straight
wasn't,
vulnerability up in that song,
I
yes.
Need Love.
Yes.
Come on. This was, and we were all singing it, male, female.
Yes.
That became the biggest pickup line.
Absolutely it did. Absolutely, yes,
Right?
it was.
I need love. Yeah, okay, dude. Okay, that got a lot of people into trouble. I'm sure some of us are here right now because of that line.
Uh-oh.
Because of that very line. That's how we got here. So I do see that there is a need, because it wouldn't resonate and they wouldn't last if it wasn't being well received.
Yes.
And if they couldn't relate. And as you said, I think that the companies that are saying, okay, you're hot, here's some money, sing about this, the artistry has gone out of that a lot.
Yeah.
It's very dictated, where, as you said, a lot of people did it the long way, where you wrote your songs and they got rejected and you got, dissed, and you did and now it's, oh, you have a good one hit, here's some money, sing some more, but I don't see them lasting. So I think in the male community, there is a desire somewhere to connect with that in other men that you admire, to know they have their Clark Kent, even though they are your Superman and you see them as the hero. So I just made that connection. I thought it was very interesting.
No, that's good. I like that. And I think, again, going back to what we talked about, the whole Superman thing, that society has really thrown that on us and having us believe that's the way we have to be. I'm someone who's often in the community, as you spoke about. I do a lot of empowerment speaking in schools and in different groups, community groups and such. And oftentimes I'm looking for other men to come out as well. And I've knocked on so many doors and I've asked these guys, do you mind coming out and speaking to these kids about your profession or what you do or whatever it is? And oftentimes I get the results of, nah, I can't do that right now. And what I find is that some of these men, they're not where they want to be in life, which is fine, because I don't know if you are where you want to be. I want $50 million in the bank. I'm not where I want to be right now,
I'm
right?
not where I want
None
to
of us
be.
are where we want to be. But oftentimes these men will tell me, nah, I'm just not where I am. I'm not where I want to be right now. I just can't come out and speak to these kids. But we got to understand that where the kids are, your 50%, your 25% is someone else's 100%. And so whatever you got going on, you have, even if you got fired from your job, even if you are going through divorce, whatever it is that you're going through, you have the ability to now take that and to teach somebody else, to help someone along their journey. But oftentimes I find that the information I'm getting back from men is, nah, I can't do that right now. I don't feel, good where I am. But we got to understand that it's more than just that Superman. We got to show these kids in our community the Clark Kent. Show them the Clark Kent. Show them the vulnerable side of you, what you've been through, what you're going through, to help them understand for when they go through it.
Absolutely. And the best speakers in the world, if you follow any self-help people or speakers, they connect by sharing their stories.
Yes, absolutely.
They connect by sharing their stories. The
Yes.
ones that don't, the ones that are just like, I got $1 million, I'm going to show you how to
Oh,
make $1 million. I know that for a lot of people, they tend to tune them out.
Yes,
And it's,
I do.
I know I do too.
Yes.
So it's not, don't just show me your $1 million. Tell me how you got it. Because
Yes.
unless you're going to give it to me, just straight up.
Yes.
I need more to know how you did it.
Yes.
Because you telling me you have it doesn't put me in a different place.
Right.
And then also, too, knowing that you failed 1,000,000 times
Yes.
before you got to 1,000,000,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What is the saying? The master has failed as many times as the novice has tried, or something like that.
Yes.
I'm misquoting,
Yes.
but something along those lines. So you're right. The men in the community, I mean, contact Jeff. If you, whatever profession that you're in, there is some young man out there that wants to be you. So
Yes.
even though you are not where you want to be, there's someone there that's looking up and saying, wow, you have this job at this place. How do I do that? Meanwhile, you wanted to be the CEO, so you're figuring I'm still an employee. It's not good enough, but that's how the inspiration starts, right?
Absolutely. And don't wait for someone like myself to come knocking on your door. Take it on yourself to go to the local high school, talk to the principal and say, listen, I specialize in mechanics or whatever it is that you do. I'm willing to come to the school and do a workshop for half a day. Go to your local church and let the pastor know I specialize in this or my skills are in certain areas. And, I can give up 2 hours a month or whatever it is. Go out there and create that situation. Because as you said, there's a young person who wants to walk in the same path you're walking down. And while you're figuring things out and you might be in mile 20, this child is in mile 1. They're in mile 2. And they don't know how to get to 20. You're trying to get to 50, but they don't even know how to get to where you are.
Right.
So take it on yourself to go to some of these establishments and let them know who you are, what you specialize in, and you're able to help. That's all I'm asking.
That is a wonderful ask, and it's an important one. And I think that's just from that, I think that's something that I'll have every guest do. What's your ask? And that is a tremendous one. We can infuse our community. We can enrich our community in ways that many of us think are small. There are so many young people. I know one of the things I try to do is I try to be the woman that the little girl in me wanted to know. I remember being young and being so lost, so incredibly lost. I was told I was smart. I was told I was bright. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what to do. So you're this aimless soul. And if you had somebody who, like you said, would pick up the phone and say, I'm doing this. I work for the government. I'm an executive secretary. Now, for that person, it may not be anything. And there's a little girl out there that all she wants is a position like that. And never belittle anyone else's dreams, because what to you is not the greatest, to somebody else that could be what their goal is, what their aim is. So leaving that ego behind.
Yes.
Again, we're right back to the ego.
Yes.
We're right back to the Superman. Everybody's idea of Superman is different.
Yeah.
And I think that also, too, as like you're a dad, you have your kids at home, but all the other little humans out there that you touch, that you reach, it's impactful and it enriches our community. All of this stuff goes out and it comes back in, right?
It does.
It absolutely does. As I said, I promote a lot of local businesses. Every time I meet somebody who has a business, I get super excited and I tell everyone about it. And one of the reasons why is because I have sons of my own and they will look for jobs. And if your business thrives, you can be a reference.
Yes.
You can give them summer employment. You're going to hang out with other business owners.
Yes.
Then, my son knocks on your door and says, Mr. Martin, can I have a job? Oh, well, we're full for the summer, but I have a friend who also has.
Right.
So
Yes.
this all feeds into, something else, mentorship, having people shadow you, apprenticeship. And I think a lot of people are worried about the commitment. Doing something too long term, but that half a day at that school can change so many lives. So
Yeah, absolutely. All it takes is that one incident. If you have the time to sit down with a child every single week, then do so. My time is limited. I don't have that time. And again, so, I spoke about going to different schools and empowering kids. I was at a school last week and I spoke about my story, vulnerability. I spoke about at a time when my family and I were homeless. I spoke about different things. I spoke about losing my cousin to gun violence in 2005. Nothing to do with what this young man wanted to talk to me about. This young man hit me up on social media and he's like, I listened to your story about stepping through your fear and standing in your greatness. And I make beats. I make music beats. And, I was scared to put them out there of what people would think. But because of what I heard you say, I decided I'm going to continue to put my beats out there. And so nothing I spoke about was about beats. And so going back to what you said, you might be that mechanic, and that person who you might be speaking to, they may never want to be a mechanic, but it's about your story and you delivering it to them and having them listen to it and potentially be inspired to say, I'm going to keep going because that individual decided to keep going. And that's what it comes down to.
And that's what, sharing of yourself. I think
Yes.
sharing of yourself, sharing your triumphs, but also your failures
Yes.
is what can help pivot and
Clark
change.
Kent, the failures. Share your failures.
Share that quaking moment in
Yes.
those glasses. It's so important. So when we come back, it'll be our last segment. I don't know how that happened.
Already?
Already.
Oh,
But he's going to
man.
be back. Don't worry. I know I know who I'll manage to get back on. So when we come back, we're going to wrap up. I mean, he already gave you how to be a better member of the community, but we're going to wrap up and we're going to solidify that idea of how important it is to let your child see all this stuff and the children in your community as well. We'll be back after this message. Welcome back, and I'm here with my amazing guest. And Jeff, I really do hope you come back. It has been a ball. The
Anytime,
last half an hour or so has flown by. It's
Absolutely,
gone by
yes,
really,
yes.
really quickly. So today we're talking about fatherhood, mentorship, Superman syndrome, egos, and showing your Clark Kent. You know, showing the side of you that isn't always successful. So you had brought up watching, I think it was a video by T.D. Jakes.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I love T.D. Jakes, and one of the things that he spoke about was the fact that young women are shown how to be, or young girls are shown how to be young women at an early age, meaning that they're given dolls that pee themselves, right? They are given easy bake ovens that shows them how to bake and to cook and stuff like that. And of course, some of that, can fall into the stereotype. But the point being is that, young girls are given these tools from an early age. So now when they become a mother, it's already ingrained in them to change a diaper, to prepare a meal and something, things along that line. Where with boys are not given anything. They're not given any type of tool. They're not given any type of toy that generally shows them how to be a father. And so when it comes up to the point of them growing up and now being in that age where they could potentially be a father or they become a father, they lack those tools based on what society has given them. So everything now falls on the previous father. If the previous father is not there, then mentorship, but it all falls back on somebody else to help to teach that child. And what is needed to teach that child is, again, for us as men to step up, whether it be fathers, whether it be mentors in the community. But if we are able to step up and to show these young men what it takes to be a man, what it takes to be a father, then perhaps as generations go along, we may have less children that don't have their father in their life.
I think that's a really important thing. Something that I grew up with my mom, and she would have this thing she would say often is that I'm your mother and I'm your father. And I remember the day I corrected her and I said, no, you're just my mom. You can't be my dad. And it's a similar situation to mine, where I can tell my boy children what, as a woman, I would like from a man, the things that I find pleasant about men. You know, clean fingernails are good, son. You can't smell. Comb your hair. These are all things that girls look at. But one thing I cannot show my son is how to be a man. Right. Because I don't know how. I can tell you what I like. I can tell you what looks good to me and what doesn't look good to me. But I can't actually tell you how to do it.
Yes.
Or can I present an example of what that is or what that should be? So I think that, as you said, mentorship and giving that half a day, half an hour, that conversation for everybody who is not, all the men out there who are like, I can't be a big brother. I can't dedicate that once a week, half a Saturday. For every single one of you that step forward and step out, you can change the life of a child. And we're specifically speaking about boys. Because as you said, a lot of them don't have that example. They have nothing to refer to, except for popular culture.
Yes.
And here in North America, our popular culture is actually quite negative, especially when it comes to the Black community, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I've brought this up before on this show. You've seen Black Panther, yes?
I have.
Yes, you have.
About 8 times.
About 8 times. Okay, you
My
beat
kids
me by
every other weekend.
you watch Black Panther. And one of the things that I noticed in the movie, and it really stood out to me from the very first viewing, was how vulnerable the men were. These warriors, and they are some of the manliest men you ever want to see. You know, they'll fight you. But they were also very vulnerable. You saw them embrace each other. You saw them cry. You saw them miss each other, seek their father's advice, embrace the dying cousin. And these extremely manly men were presented in a very vulnerable way. And I think that hails back to our original culture, which did defer to that and did include the humanity of men. Right?
Yes.
Whereas here in North America, and there are various reasons, you know, from slavery to how we got here to the melding of other cultures. But I find a lot of old school cultures, a lot of ethnic cultures, Greeks, Italians, Caribbeans, and so forth, they embrace, they kiss, they sit
hold hands
close,
in some
they
countries.
hold hands, and so this bravado thing that I think it's very much a North American, more modern idea.
It's North American, and it's what was created again by media and by society. Society shows us how we need to act, and so we act that way because every time you turn the TV on or a movie on or you listen to a song, this is how the person tells you how to act as a man. So you know, whether it be a Black man, whether it be a man as a whole, you know, you see the commercials and the guy rips off his shirt and he's all muscled out and swollen and he's, you know, looking all tough.
No dad bods.
Exactly, no dad bodies. You see, you know, certain movies and you see the jock, you know, the head of the football team, the head of the basketball team. He has the head cheerleader as his girlfriend. This is what we see all the time. Commercials, you know, every commercial you see, you're seeing this. Every TV show, you're seeing this. And so this is what's ingrained in us. Even if you're not paying attention, subconsciously you're paying attention and you're seeing it without even noticing it. And this is what we come to believe is what manhood should be.
So I have a question for you. What do you think the purpose of that is?
I don't know what the purpose of that is. I don't know if it was something where it was initially started, let's say, on one TV show or one person's thought, and it kind of grew. I don't know where the origin is. But what I do know is that many times in our lives, I think as men, it has hurt us. Because rather than being open in our vulnerability or accepting our vulnerability or learning from our vulnerability, when we get hurt, when we get broken, when we get let down, we step into our ego and say, you know what, whatever, man, I'm going to go do my own thing. And now we're acting in an area where it's all about us versus let me take a moment here to learn what I went through.
That was profound. I see that time and time again, and I'm sure that's resonated with a lot of you where you've seen a man be hurt. And I'm specifying men because that's what we're talking about, but this is humanity.
Yes,
people get hurt, but in our society, especially with all the reinforcement that we've discussed, all our TV shows, everything, every example of everything we see is built on this model, right?
Yes,
And
masculine
this
man.
super masculine man. And when the underdog, who is often smaller and
Nerdy,
he's smart, he's
glasses,
nerdy,
yep.
and this and that, and when he wins, it's against all odds, and it's against the natural order of things, and
Yes.
so forth. And as I said, I do wonder, what was the purpose of it? As you said, did it start kind of almost by accident and people really liked it and it caught on? It spoke to the ego of people, and so that's what they wanted to see. And if anyone out there knows, please comment, drop us a line, give us a message.
Absolutely.
Because it's just like I was speaking to somebody about women in the workforce, and I said, well, that really started because of the wars. The
Yes.
men went to war, and
Yes.
the women went to work in the factory, and then when everything was undone, it was kind of like, well, I'm not going back home.
Right.
And some of the men didn't come home, so it just started a whole
Yes.
new culture, just a whole different culture.
Yes.
So I wonder where this came from, because Canada, as a country of immigrants, I mean, that's what Canada is.
Yes.
The people who are Native Canadians occupy such a tiny area of Canada and influence its general culture so little, unfortunately, Native Canadians, that it's surprising to me that in countries like Canada and the United States that are really just made up of immigrants,
Yeah.
people from the old country, how they've all melded together and made this brand new culture, and it's very negative for men. Toxic masculinity is a phrase I don't like to use because I think it's gotten warped with, a lot, as a lot of very popular phrases do.
Yes.
But in summary, I feel that's what we've been speaking about
Yeah,
today.
I would say for the most part, yes.
We're talking about the things in our culture that are toxic to men.
Yes.
Toxic masculinity to me does not mean men are toxic, which is
No.
sadly what a lot of people have taken it to be. But the toxic things that affect men, which then in turn causes them to affect everyone around them,
Yes.
male and female,
Yes.
right?
Yes, everyone's affected by that. Absolutely.
And so, in summary, because Nisha's gonna wave at us soon. In summary, what would you say would be the most toxic things we teach our sons? And I'm putting you on the spot here. The toxic things we teach our sons, and what can we do to counteract them? Like, just pick a few points.
So again, just going back to what we've been talking about, the ego is probably the most influential thing that we have been using that has been such a negative piece of us. We need to look at our vulnerability, step into our vulnerability, because again, that's where we learn, that's where we grow, that's where we produce. If we step into the vulnerability, your world can change if you accept what's going on. And when I say accepting, I don't mean accepting, you had a gun pulled to you, you accept that happened. I'm saying, understand what took place, live in it for a moment. I'm not saying be depressed about it, but live in it for a moment. And then whatever you get from that, use that to drive you. I had a friend of mine who had that happen to him. And because it happened to him, he said to himself, I will never be in a situation again where this happens. And he's put himself into a situation where now he makes quite a bit of money. He put his family into an area where, he's far away from that type of stuff. And again, because he was able to live in his vulnerability for the moment and say, I didn't like that feeling, he was able to push himself to another plateau. And that's what I'm talking about. Step out of our ego and into your vulnerability and learn from it, grow from it, and see what you can create from it.
And I think that really is the solution. It kind of wraps up all the topics of toxic masculinity. Get out of that ego, because ego is always just about you. It's always just about you.
Edging out God.
And so, where do we find you, Jeff? What's coming up? Tell us.
I am working on a number of different projects. I am working on a book right now called New Me. That's Knew, me, new me. It has a couple meanings. I don't know if we have time for it, but it's 10 authors, 10 men who are talking about situations where they fell down, but more importantly, how they were able to stand back up. And there's 10 authors because someone reading the book may not relate to my story, but they can relate to somebody else's. And the whole idea is to help men in their circumstances to become better, to become stronger, to become better husbands, become better fathers, to become better mentors, and just all around productive, being productive in society. And that's what we're trying to do with this book.
Amazing. So you know that I'm going to ask for those 10 men to be on this show.
We'll be back.
I am going to pull it off. I know Anisha's behind the screen going, she's going to what? But I'm going to make that happen. Jeff, thank you so much for honoring us with your presence, with your words, with your passion, with your knowledge.
Thank you
are
so
a
much.
wonderful guest. I thank you. And we will be back again next week. I will be here. I'll get Jeff back. Don't worry. I'm going to get him back.
I'll be back one day.
He's going to be back, and I think he's going to have 9 other men with him. I'm going to pull that off. But I thank you guys for tuning in. Like this, share it, ask your questions. Let's get the word out, because here we want to know what matters to you. I will see you next Tuesday.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Oh, amazing.
You're